Welcome, everybody, to Unity of Bellingham. Thank you for being here this morning. It's wonderful to see you each, and those of you online as well. My name is Shari, and I am the service assistant today. And we have an amazing guest speaker who we've been able to enjoy and learn from before. We have Monica McDowell Elvig from Unity of Bellevue that is here with us. That's awesome. Her talk title is Questions That Make a Difference. So eager to hear about that because asking the right question really helps. So as far as music ministry, we're in for a treat. You might see something up on the stage. Yeah. So we have Jill Meadows this morning, and I want to thank her for sharing her gift. And we have Marcia Reimers as Osbourne. Sorry. I've known you for so long. Yeah, it just came out. Marcia Osbourne. Sorry, Russ. As part of our music ministry as well. So thank you, Marcia Osbourne.
We are held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection from a mother's warm embrace. We are held in the hands of grace. Ooh.
As we join in prayer, let's hold that thought, held in the hands of grace. Picture that in your mind's eye. Holding the earth like in your hands and seeing the grace just envelop. So at this time, feel the comfort of knowing, experiencing that we are more than two gathered together. Our collective prayer flows out in waves upon waves of focused desires, focused wishes. When we pray together, ripples of focused desires and wishes become waves which collectively become a tsunami of energy, a prayer. We affirm our love of Mother Earth, of Gaia. We reach out to all beings of this planet and wish them love, peace, health, safety, happiness. We individually send personal ripples of energy to those we love for clarity of next steps, for vitality of health, expanded prosperity. Take a moment to pray for something or someone you desire now. And if you like, please be at ease to say anyone's name aloud you wish to hold in devoted prayer. We say thank you, and so it is. And now I invite you into a nourishing time of meditation. Think of this as a spa for your heart, mind, and emotions. Begin by focusing on your breath. Feel the air move in and out. Deep breath in, slowly release. In the calm of meditation, we fill our spiritual reserves. We give our body rest. We open our mind to potential. As you breathe, begin to listen to the whispering of your heart. Affirm within, my heart is receptive, my inner eye is open. Heart receptive, inner eye open. Open, receptive. You are resting in the presence of pure love. Here and now is a beauty, a gentle flow of divine love. In this space, you feel the pulse of Source Divine. You are at the door of the vault of your potential well-being. Imagine your inner vault of potential. What does it look like? What's inside? What will you choose to fortify your well-being? Consider to choose love first. From our dear Sufi poet Hafiz. Hafiz says, the sky is where we live. This is no place to lose your wings. So love, love, love. This sky is where we live. And no place to lose your wings. So love, love, love. And as you go forward in your day and your week, you can take these moments to remember it's love, love, love. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Shari. That was beautiful and perfect for this morning. It's so good to be with you again. I'm from here. I grew up here, so this is always like coming home, driving home. I live in Lake Forest Park. And a big thanks to Reverend Frank for asking me back. And greetings from Unity of Bellevue I bring with me. So your sister church down there, they're having to do without me. Just I wanted to just do a reading just to be our jumping off point for the talk this morning. And just a little bit of background before I get into the short passage. I think most of you probably know that the Sadducees and the Pharisees in the Bible did not get along. They were factions within the Jewish world of the day, and the Sadducees were kind of in alignment with the elite. They were scholars and high up and very influential among the elders of the Jewish world and the political world. And they did not believe in the resurrection of the dead or the afterlife. And they also did not believe in God's providence, divine providence, what we would call divine order. They believed that everything happened only because of free will. So they were kind of like secular humanists. That would be kind of the parallel. The Pharisees, their bitter rivals, did believe in the afterlife, and they were very popular with the common people. And these two groups were always kind of jockeying for political and religious influence, and neither group liked Jesus. So this is the background for this passage. The Sadducees came to Jesus saying, "There is no resurrection," and they asked him a question. "Teacher, Moses said if a man dies childless, his brother shall marry the widow and raise up the children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died childless, leaving the widow to his brother. The second did the same, and so also the third, down to the 7th. Last of all, the woman herself died. And the resurrection, then, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For all of them had married her." Jesus answered them, "You are wrong, because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, people neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven." And when the crowds heard it, they were astounded at Jesus' teaching. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them asked Jesus a question to test him. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" And Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets." We give thanks for these words. How lovely. I have a harp. Thank you so much. I love questions. Anyone who knows me knows I love a good question. Every meeting I start with a question. I have a wonderful deck of spiritual direction cards that when you pull one, it just asks a contemplative question for you to ponder about your life, for a client or somebody coming to me, or for myself. A couple of years ago, my father-in-law, who was 94 at the time, he made his transition last year, but for one of his last surgeries, he had to go to the hospital to find out what was involved, and the surgeon went over all the details with him and everything that was going to happen. And at the end, he asked my father-in-law, now, do you have any questions for me? And without missing a beat, my father-in-law said, yes, have you ever done this before? When you're 94, all the doctors look a little too young to be doing surgery. Be careful what you ask for. There is considerable agreement in the field of counseling that the questions we ask ourselves matter for emotional health. Therapists have learned that by getting people to change the questions they ask themselves, their lives can turn around. For example, instead of asking, why is this always happening to me? We might change that to, what can I learn from this? Or what can I do differently that I haven't done before? Or what good wants to emerge from this? Questions matter for our emotional health. So why does changing our questions work? Well, because our questions have assumptions. So how we frame our questions affects the answers. If we ask, why me? We're assuming the stance of a victim. If we ask, why not me? We assume the stance of a survivor. We assume the stance of someone who's strong. If we ask, where are we going to get the money to pay the bills? We assume lack. If we ask, how can we demonstrate our faith in the source that is the abundance of all with our money? We assume that abundance. So how we ask or frame a question determines how the answer comes out. My daughter, when she was 7 years old, she came down one morning after she woke up, and she was scowling. She was also not saying anything, and so I thought maybe I had done something. So I said, Lindsay, are you mad at me? And she looks, I don't know, Mom. What did you do? My question assumed I had done something to upset her, and her reply followed the assumption perfectly. Michael Bernard Beckwith of Agape Community has a brilliant observation that your ego can't argue with a question like it can with an affirmation. For example, if you affirm, I am abundance, pretty soon you might hear your subconscious going, really? Is that really true? That's not what I'm experiencing. No way. But if you ask instead an empowering question, like, how is the universe going to show me how prosperity flows through me? The ego can't argue with that. Questions matter for our emotional and spiritual health. So here's a question for you. If Jesus or Buddha or Mother Mary or Hildegard de Bingen or Kuan Yin were physically present with us today, what questions would you ask them? Or if you had been alive when they walked the earth, what questions would you have asked them then? I get this from somebody on the social media. In the Gospels, Jesus is asked 187 questions. He answers maybe 8 of them. He himself asks 307. And this guy says, maybe faith isn't so much about certainty, but learning to ask and sit in the complexity of good questions. A lot of people asked Jesus questions. His students did, the crowds, Pontius Pilate, his family. Jesus himself was just one big question mark. Who is this guy? And whenever they got the chance, they asked Jesus questions. Who will you heal me? Who do you like best, me or my brother? What is God like? When will the end of time come? Are you the king of the Jews? Who gets into heaven? Why did you let our brother, Lazarus, die? Lots of questions for Jesus. Questions matter. Well, the Sadducees and Pharisees had lots of questions for Jesus too. And here in our passage, the Sadducees try to entrap Jesus. As I stated, they did not believe in the afterlife, but the popular belief with the common people at the time was that after you died, you were raised with a physical body and were married and had children, but without pain. It was a blissful paradise, apparently. So they ask a question of him that is a bit of a riddle. They ask him, half mocking him, with 7 husbands, to whom will this woman be married in the afterlife? I can see them laughing even as they ask it. Jesus either has to deny the afterlife and agree with the Sadducees, or to be consistent with the common belief of the time, he would have to affirm the outrageous idea that a woman would have 7 husbands in paradise. How outrageous would that be? And Jesus says, no, wrong question. He refuses to answer it. He says, because if they believed in the power of the divine, they wouldn't have asked such a question in the first place. Their question showed their lack of faith. Well, as I said, the Sadducees and the Pharisees were bitter rivals. And when the Pharisees see that Jesus has silenced the Sadducees, they huddle together. Now, the traditional interpretation is that they take their turn trying to trap Jesus, but I don't think that's the dynamic that's going on here at all. Earlier in the chapter, that's exactly what they do. They try to trap Jesus. But here, there's a different dynamic going on. The Greek word for test here does not mean test as in trap. It means test as to test for good or bad intentions, to test for motive. So they are asking to see what Jesus really means. They're thrilled Jesus has silenced the Sadducees. So let's huddle together. Okay, Jesus has finally taken our side, but we've got to make sure. We've got to make sure he really is on our side. Let's come up with a question to see if he answers it straight. And their question is, Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? Now, come on, that is like asking a minister, what's the first book in the Bible? Or a unity minister, who are the founders of the unity movement? This is an outrageously easy question for any Jew of any age, not to mention a rabbi. You see, they're coming up with an outrageously easy question because they want to see if he's going to answer it straight. They're softballing him one to see if he really is on their side. Jesus plays along. He humors them. He gives them what would be kind of like the Jewish catechism. He says, the greatest commandment is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. Any Jew would recite that. And again, I can see the Pharisees whooping it up. Yes, he is on our side. He answered it straight. Good job, Jesus. Pats on the back. Fist bump, Jesus. Way to go. Jesus is on our side now. We're going to whoop those Sadducees. Woohoo. And I can see Jesus letting them enjoy their little victory celebration for a little while in between verse 38 and 39. Sometimes those verse splits in the Bible have spiritual significance. And then Jesus clears his throat, tries to get their attention. Uh-oh, some of the Pharisees say, I told you we can't trust him. And Jesus goes on, and a second is just like the first. It is the same thing. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourselves. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Again, this is standard Jewish catechism. But I'm pretty sure when Jesus said, you shall love your neighbors, he looked over in the direction of the Sadducees. You shall love the Sadducees as much as you love yourselves. This is as important. It is the same as loving God. Whoa, Jesus, that's not what we asked you. We only asked you for 1 commandment. But any protests blew away in the wind, for the word of the divine lasts forever. Our questions reveal what we believe and what we don't believe. The Sadducees didn't believe in the God who is all power. The Pharisees didn't believe in the God who is all love. Pharisees felt the full weight of Jesus' blow, and they huddled together again to try to regroup after that big blow. But he didn't let them gather any steam. He went on and asked them a question that trap them, to show their guys, to show that they were really just jockeying for position. They only want God if God is on their side and no one else's. And they said, the scripture says they were all stumped. They were unable to give Jesus an answer, and then it ends with, and that day, no one dared ask Jesus any more questions. It's a common thing in families and communities, churches, the country, to divide up. Let's see, they're on that person's side, and that person's on my side, and I'm on their side. But that can be very painful and very divisive. Anne Lamott in Bird by Bird says a priest friend of hers once told her, you can safely assume you've made God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do. One of the things that we do at Unity of Bellevue is we offer a free community shredding event. We have some non-religious funds that help pay the cost for that, and so we offer a free event for our larger community, and we have people drive through our parking lot. And a couple years ago, it was threatening to rain. It was very cloudy, and the forecast was for rain, and it held off until we were pulling in the signs. We were done for the morning. We pulled in the signs. The rain started. But during the event, one of the cars had snaked their way through and was exiting, and we have a volunteer there who pulls the traffic cone so they can exit. And as he pulled up to her, he rolled down his window and said, "The rain is holding off. God must be on your side." And without missing a beat, she said, "God is on everyone's side." And the truth of that, he heard it, and he reached for his wallet, pulled out some cash, and gave us another cash donation. He heard the truth of that. And isn't that what unity is all about? That God is for all of us. So the better question isn't, aren't you on my side, but are we on God's side? Are we in alignment with divine ideas, divine ideals? If we are, then the rest of the questions don't matter so much. If we're on God's side, if we're in alignment with love and truth and justice and peace and abundance and forgiveness and generosity, even when we disagree, we are ultimately united in love and purpose. We're on the same team. So our questions matter. Our questions matter for our emotional and mental health, our spiritual health, and our community health. But I want to delve deeper into this question about questions, because I discovered something else, another layer. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my saga. I don't talk a lot about it. I wrote a book about it, so I wouldn't have to talk about it. But it's a long, burgeoning story. That's why I call it a saga. But I just want to talk about one aspect of what happened to me during that time. This is started over 25 years ago, so it was quite a while ago. I was hired as an associate minister of a church in the Pacific Northwest, and I walked into a rat's nest. I discovered that there had been a 2-decade-long scandal by the senior minister, my supervisor. And with this revelation and it coming out, I was thrust into injustice, a legal nightmare, and I was following my divine guidance best I could all the way. But there was so much loss and so much pain and so much suffering for me. And all of the things that were happening did not make sense to me. I couldn't put the pieces together. The big picture no longer worked for me. What I discovered during this time, what I was experiencing, was that every single question I asked of God, of the universe, was answered, often immediately, in ways I had never experienced before. I had a few questions answered over years, by the divine. But this was every day, all day long, even during the night, for years. And that too was a puzzle to me. It's like, why is this happening? What's going on? I want to give you some examples. For example, I would be ruminating on, I need this picture, I need a mental map of what's happening. So I go to my local independent bookstore, Third Place Books, that's right by my house, and a book literally falls into my hands, opens to a page, and there's the mental map of the universe. That's what it's called, a mental map of the universe. I sat down and read the whole book right there. Another time, I really wanted to leave the situation so many times, but my divine guidance kept telling me to stay in it. But at one point, I'd had it. I'm done, God. And I start working on how am I going to extricate myself from all of this, right? I was attending a church that was a distance away from where I lived, but it was a sanctuary church for me. And there was a visitor there. She was visiting from the East Coast. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. And we were chatting after service about absolutely nothing. And all of a sudden, she stops and she looks me in the eye. She says, "Stand firm. That's what you're supposed to do. Stand firm, honey. The Spirit is saying, stand firm." Complete stranger gives me the answer to my question. On another occasion, I was walking to Third Place Books, and I was thinking, I was never treated like a princess. I never had that experience. I was treated fine as a child in general, but I was just working on, I never had that. And so I was trying to resolve that, doing my inner work as I was walking to the bookstore. And as I approached the bookstore, I see behind the two big glass doors, there's a man standing there. And as I get close, he opens it from the inside for me. And as I walk through, this is what he does. And he goes, "For you, princess." This kind of thing was happening to me all the time. One more example. I've got lots, but this is one more example I'm going to give. There was one situation within that scandal that was not resolving, and it was vexing me. I'm like, why, God? I was totally taking the victim stance. I claim that. Why is this continuing to happen? Why is this not resolving? I don't understand. Car zips right in front of me, pulls right in front of me. This is the license plate. Not just karma. Well, a few months later, the situation still had not resolved, and I had been patient, but at this, I was starting to reach my limit. God, really? Why is this still not resolved? I pulled into a parking spot. That car was right across from me again. And that's when I got the picture. I was like, nobody's going to believe me unless I take a picture. So I got out and took the picture of that. And you may notice the tabs, 1111. So it was that kind of thing. Why are all my questions being answered? I'm going to pause here and I'm going to shift to the book of Job, because I think Job demonstrates the answer to my question. Now, in popular culture, you may know Job is seen as the silent sufferer, right? But anybody who thinks that has not read the full book of Job and stopped reading it in chapter 2, because chapter 3 begins, "And I cursed the day of his birth." And for chapter after chapter after chapter, he wails and grieves and questions and goes on and on. Deep suffering. We would say he had PTSD, all these traumas. He lost his children, has died, his wife has left him. He's got a painful, disfiguring disease. He's lost all of his money. And the only friends he has left are the ones who want to do spiritual bypass with him and give him affirmations and all the things that drive you crazy when you're truly, truly suffering. And he rejects all of it. "No, I have done nothing to deserve all of this. God must answer me. God has to come and tell me what is going on." And God does. God speaks to Job out of the whirlwind. For 2 chapters, God answers Job with questions. Now, some people kind of take it like, well, God's angry at Job or something, how dare you question me? I'm not going to question you, right? I have a very different take on it. Job has got blinders on. He can only see his suffering, his tragedy. He can't see anything else. And I get the impression here of the divine just gently pushing on those blinders, saying, hey, Job, wake up. Questions after questions for Job that take him on a whirlwind tour of the universe. Hey, Job, who made the clouds and their garments, the thick darkness of their swaddling hands? Beautiful Hebrew poetry. Have you ever answered the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep? Hey, Job, have you been there when the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Hey, Job, do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the deer? Questions for Job. And he answers, first time briefly, he says, I'm just this little human God. Keep talking. He doesn't get it, but he's not stuck anymore. He's listening to God. He's realizing, oh, maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe I'm not even asking the right questions. And so God asks Job some more questions. Do you know of Leviathan, Job, the great monster of the deep? Now, in Hebrew poetry, it's the symbol for chaos in the cosmos. The chaos, Job, can you control chaos? Can you command it? Can you slice it up and divide it and mete it out so everything stays in balance in the cosmos? Now, these questions to me almost have the ring of koans in Zen Buddhism, those kind of unanswerable questions that are supposed to shift someone from duality to non-duality to oneness. And it works for Job. He gets it. He wakes up. It says he repents, which in Hebrew just means to turn. We would say he shifted. His paradigm shifted. And his vision expands. He says, before I shifted, I only heard of you, God. You were just a rumor. It was indirect knowledge of God. But now, Job says, my eye, singular eye, not two eyes, my eye sees you, unitive vision. He now is awakened to oneness. He has shifted from duality into non-duality, into seeing the divine directly, into having direct experience from this whirlwind tour of the universe. Job needed a new paradigm, and I needed a new paradigm. And this is the answer to my question, at least one of them. Why did I have all my questions answered? Because one, I was on the threshold of a paradigm shift, just like Job. And two, I asked my questions to God directly, just like Job. I went straight to the divine. Nothing else is going to suffice. And three, I sought those questions with all of my being. I wanted to know. Sometimes wisdom is accepting things as they are. And sometimes wisdom is questioning things. And it worked. I woke up. I had my big awakening into oneness, into divine consciousness. And Job did too. And this is why I think why. The divine universe fully supports our evolution in consciousness, which is helping all of us shift out of old, limiting paradigms into new, more expansive ones. So if things aren't working for you or for us anymore, for our emotional health, for our spiritual health, for our community health, for humanity's evolution in consciousness, ask good questions and question your questions. Eddie Ashanti says, question your thoughts, question your stories, question your assumptions, question your opinions, question your conclusions, question them all into utter emptiness, stillness, and joy. The keys to freedom are in your hands. Use them. Questions matter in helping us shift paradigms. If you're a bit of a movie buff like me, you may have seen the movie that won the Best Picture a couple of years ago called Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's not for everyone. I'll admit right up front. It's quirky and absurdist comedy. Sci-fi, I loved it. I thought it was absolute genius, hilarious. My husband was like, so it's not for everybody. But in this movie is really a modern take on the book of Job, in my opinion. And there's even a reference to it, to unitive vision, to oneness with the one eye that sees everything everywhere all at once. In this movie, there is a family, and they are suffering deeply. They're on the threshold of a paradigm shift, and they seek questions with all of their being from the universe to try to heal themselves as a family in the midst of us, even in the midst of great chaos that takes place. And in the end, they come to understand that unconditional love and kindness are the ultimate answers, and they heal. Seek the fullness of the divine. Seek the next unfolding of the divine within you and through you with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, with all of your being. Ask the divine from here, from your heart. Seek and you will find. Ask and it shall be answered. So it is.
I have a couple announcements for you. The first one is from Reverend Sandra Solikip. She said, in preparation for the upcoming Unity Northwest Regional Conference, that she's volunteered to head up the High Watch team. And holding the High Watch is a powerful way of praying. The High Watch is aligning with the energy of the divine presence moving in and through all things for the highest good. Next Sunday after service, there will be an opportunity to experience what it is like to hold up the High Watch and see if this is a team for you. And then so next Sunday there'll be a sign up and there'll be more information. But if that calls to you, that's going to be part of the process in getting ready for the Regional Ministers Conference. The segue to that is my announcement for that. When Frank asked me to help with this with the volunteers, I came up and I talked to you and I said, hey, we're going to have about 40, 50 people here. It's going to be fantastic. It's double that at least. And it's 90 people now. And it's like, this is a call to action for us. And so I'm appealing to you for that. So in September, we're hosting this conference. And to be the best hosts possible, we'll need a large number of volunteers. And I've kind of spoken to that, but not in the context of making things run smoothly for 90 participants. And so this is going to be about 3.5 days of need. And I've structured it in a way that everybody can do something, can do a little bit. It won't be, you get to choose how much you do. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You'll get to choose what you do. And so next week and probably in the next few weeks, I have many of your names and numbers, but I'm going to have sign-ups about where I can put your name in. And so there'll be all sorts of things to do, from greeting to providing treats, to making coffee, to you name it. I have it all lined out. The fun one will be what I call the Tidy Up Crew. Can you imagine what that is? Anyway, it'd be fun. So, yeah. Anyway, so more to come on that. And